I am Ibrahim Traore, and I have seen the pain of my people, the fear in their eyes, the loss of their homes, the theft of their dreams. But I also see their strength, their courage, and together we will rebuild Burkina Faso into a nation that stands tall, unafraid, and unstoppable.
Burkina Faso, a small nation tucked in the heart of West Africa, was once a hidden treasure, often unnoticed by the world. Its landscapes are a tapestry of golden savannas that shimmer under the relentless sun, dotted with ancient baobab trees, and rolling hills that seem to whisper stories of old. Villages pulse with life, where elders sit under shaded canopies, sharing tales of ancestors with wide-eyed children. The Burkina Bay people are the soul of this land, known for their warmth and unyielding pride in their heritage. Markets brim with energy. Traders call out, offering vibrant kente cloth, hand-carved wooden masks, and baskets overflowing with millet, yams, and mangoes. During festivals, the air fills with the beat of traditional gem drums as dancers in colorful costumes move in. Harmony, celebrating a culture that has thrived for centuries. Yet life in Burkina Faso has always been a delicate dance with hardship. The Sahel's harsh climate brings scorching heat and erratic rains, making farming a test of patience and grit. Poverty is a constant companion for many, but the Burkina Bay have always found strength in their communities, turning struggle into moments of shared joy and resilience. Beneath this vibrant surface, a storm was brewing. The Sahel, a vast belt of land stretching across West Africa, was becoming a breeding ground for chaos. Its sprawling deserts, dense forests, and remote mountains offered perfect hideouts for armed groups, insurgents fueled by greed, ideology, or desperation. These groups saw Burkina Faso's open borders and unguarded territories as easy prey. Villages that once echoed with laughter and trade began to tremble with fear. Attacks came without warning. Homes were burned, livestock stolen, and families forced to flee into the night. The bustling markets, once alive with the chatter of traders and the scent of fresh produce, turned into ghost towns, their stalls covered in dust. Schools shuttered, leaving children with no books, no teachers, no dreams. The sound of gunfire drowned out the rhythms of daily life. And a nation, known for its warmth, was suddenly known for its suffering. Burkina Faso was caught in a crisis it didn't create, fighting to hold on to its identity and its future. The Burkina Bay spirit, though battered, refused to break. This was a nation of survivors, people who had faced droughts, famine, and poverty with unwavering resolve. They weren't about to let insurgents steal their way of life. Frustration grew into a fire of determination, sparking protests across towns and cities. Farmers left their fields, teachers abandoned their chalkboards, and mothers marched with their children, their voices rising in unison. They demanded more than empty promises. They wanted a leader who would act, who would fight for their safety and their future. Burkina Faso stood at a crossroads. It could sink into despair or rise stronger than ever. The people chose to rise. Their collective strength a testament to their unbreakable will. In this moment of unity and defiance, a new leader emerged. Ibrahim Traoré, a man who would transform their pain into power and their fear into hope, leading Burkina Faso toward a future no one thought possible. The crisis in Burkina Faso wasn't just about attacks. It was about a way of life being stolen. Imagine waking up each day, unsure if your home would still stand by nightfall. Farmers stopped working their fields, too afraid to stray far from their villages. Roads that once carried goods to bustling markets became dangerous, ambushed by insurgents who struck and vanished. Supplies dried up, shops closed, and the economy began to crumble. Families who relied on selling crops or crafts could no longer make ends meet. The vibrant markets, once filled with the chatter of traders and the colors of fresh produce, stood empty, their stalls covered in dust. This wasn't just an economic loss. It was a loss of hope, a loss of the daily rhythms that held communities together. The emotional toll was even heavier. Parents watched their children grow up in a world of fear, where the sound of gunfire was more familiar than the sound of laughter. Schools shut down, leaving kids with nowhere to go, no chance to learn or dream. Young boys and girls saw more violence than opportunity, more bullets than books. An entire generation was at risk of being lost to this chaos, their future stolen. Before they could begin, families were torn apart. Some fled to crowded refugee camps. Others scattered to distant towns, unsure if they'd ever see each other again. The Burkina, known for their strength, were being tested like never before. Their resilience was stretched thin, but it never broke. They knew they couldn't let fear win. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the soul of the nation. The people of Burkina Faso, proud and strong, refused to let their country sink into despair. Frustration boiled over into action. Across Burkina Faso, protests erupted. Ordinary citizens, men, women, young and old, marched together, their voices loud and clear. They demanded a leader who would stand up to the insurgents. Someone who wouldn't just talk about change, but make it happen. The nation was at a crossroads. It could sink deeper into the abyss, or it could rise stronger than ever. The Burkinabe chose to fight. They chose to believe in a better future. And it was in this moment of desperation and determination that Ibrahim Traoré stepped forward. A young leader with a vision to transform Burkina Faso from a victim of chaos into a symbol of strength. Ibrahim Traoré was no ordinary leader. He didn't come from a world of privilege or hide behind high walls. Born in a small Burkinabe village, he grew up knowing the struggles of his people, the backbreaking work of farmers, the worry of parents, unable to feed their children, the fear of families living under the shadow of violence. Traoré walked the same dusty paths as his neighbors, sat with them under the stars, and listened to their stories of loss and hope. He saw the pain in their eyes and felt it in his heart. Where others saw a nation on its knees, Traoré saw potential, a Burkina Faso that could stand tall, not just survive, but thrive. His vision wasn't about patching up old wounds. It was about building a new future, one where the Burkinabe could hold their heads high. When Traoré took power, Burkina Faso was crumbling. The economy was in tatters. The military was outmatched, and communities were fractured by fear. Past leaders had relied on outdated tactics, slow, costly ground battles, or pleas for foreign aid that rarely came. Traoré refused to follow that path. He gathered the nation's brightest minds, military strategists, technology experts, village elders, and young innovators. He traveled to the hardest-hit regions, sitting with farmers under mango trees, asking, "What do you need to feel safe again?" Their answers became his blueprint. Traoré wasn't a leader who ruled from a distant office. He was a partner, working side by side with his people to rebuild their nation from the ground up. His approach was bold, even radical. Traoré saw that the old ways of fighting long march through the bush, hoping to catch fleeting enemies, weren't working. He turned his eyes to the skies. Modern warfare, he knew, was about speed, precision, and control of the air. Insurgents had used Burkina Faso's vast terrain to hide, striking villages and vanishing before soldiers could respond. Traoré decided to take that advantage away. He invested heavily in drones, surveillance planes, and air bases, transforming Burkina Faso's military into a force that could outsmart and outmaneuver the enemy. This wasn't just a military strategy. It was a revolution, one that would turn a struggling nation into a beacon of strength and innovation. Surprising. The world with its resilience, In the modern world, wars are won not just on the ground, but in the air. Controlling the skies means controlling the fight, seeing the enemy before they see you, striking with precision, and protecting those who can't protect themselves. For Burkina Faso, with its sprawling deserts, dense forests, and rugged mountains, air power was a game changer. Insurgents had always relied on the Sahel's terrain to stay hidden. They slipped through thick bush, hid in remote caves, and vanished into endless sands. Ground troops, no matter how determined, struggled to keep up. It could take days to reach a village under attack, and by then, the insurgents were gone, leaving only destruction behind. Traore saw the solution. Take the fight to the air, where speed and vision could outmatch any enemy. Drones became the cornerstone of this new strategy. These small, high-tech machines were unlike anything Burkina Faso had used before. They could fly for hours, their cameras zooming in on a single figure moving through the trees or a truck speeding across the desert. Drones sent live video to military bases, letting commanders see exactly where the insurgents were, what they were doing, and where they were going. Unlike fighter jets, drones were affordable, easy to launch, and didn't need large crews. They could hover over a village, watching for danger, or track a group of insurgents moving under cover of night. With drones in the sky, Burkina Faso had eyes everywhere, stripping away the insurgents' greatest weapon, the ability to hide. But Traoré's vision went beyond drones. He built air bases across the country, strategically placed to cover every region. These bases weren't just runways. They were hubs of innovation, housing surveillance planes, repair shops, and training centers. Fighter jets joined the fleet, ready to strike with pinpoint accuracy. This wasn't just about fighting. It was about protecting. Villages that had lived in fear for years now had planes patrolling above, ready to stop attacks before they began. The skies, once a place of uncertainty, became a shield for Burkina Faso. Traoré's bold investment turned a weak military into a force that stunned the world, proving that even a small nation could become a giant when it dared to dream big. Drones were more than machines. They were Burkina Faso's lifeline, the eyes that never slept. Picture a small aircraft, no bigger than a car, soaring silently above the Sahel. Its cameras could spot a single person hiding in the bush, a group of armed men creeping through the forest, or a truck kicking up dust miles away. Drones could fly for hours, watching every move below, sending live updates to soldiers on the ground. For a country like Burkina Faso, where insurgents used the vast terrain to disappear, drones were a miracle. They turned the tables, making the hunters the hunted. No longer could insurgents strike and vanish. The skies were always watching. The impact was immediate and profound. In one village, a drone spotted a group of armed men approaching under cover of darkness. Before they could reach their target, the military was alerted and the attack was stopped. The villagers who had spent years hiding in fear woke up safe, their homes untouched. For them, drones weren't just technology. They were hope, a sign that their country was fighting for them. In another region, drones tracked an insurgent supply route, leading to a hidden camp deep in the desert. A single airstrike, guided by drone data, destroyed it, cutting off the insurgents' resources. The enemy, who once thought they were untouchable, was now on the run, their plans unraveling under the watchful eyes of Burkina Faso's drones. Drones weren't just about stopping attacks. They were about saving lives and resources. Fighter jets and large ground operations cost millions and require huge teams. Drones were different, affordable, efficient, and needing only a few trained operators to do the work of an entire battalion. For a nation with limited resources, this was a game changer. Drones could patrol vast areas, strike with precision, and gather intelligence, all without draining the economy. But their real power was in the confidence they gave. Farmers returned to their fields knowing the skies were safe. Markets buzzed again with traders calling out and customers bargaining. Children ran to school, their laughter replacing the silence of fear. Drones didn't just fight a war. They brought life back to Burkina Faso, village by village. Technology alone doesn't win battles. People do. Traore understood this. So he invested in his greatest asset, the Burkina people. He envisioned a new kind of army, one that was smart, skilled, and ready for the future. Across Burkina Faso, training centers sprang up, teaching young men and women to fly drones, analyze surveillance data, and maintain high-tech equipment. These weren't just soldiers. They were specialists trained to think fast, solve problems, and act with precision. They were the future of Burkina Faso's defense, and Traoré made sure they had the tools and knowledge to succeed. Take Honorine, a young woman from a small village in the north. Growing up, she dreamed of flying. But in a country where military aviation was still new, her dream seemed out of reach. When Traoré's training programs began, Honorine saw her chance. She enrolled in a drone pilot course, spending long hours learning to navigate complex systems and read real-time data. Today, she's a military pilot, soaring above the Sahel, protecting her people. Her story is one of thousands of young Burkinabe who found not just skills, but purpose. They're not just learning to fly drones. They're learning to defend their nation, to be part of a movement bigger than themselves. Honorine's pride, as she guides a drone over her village, is the pride of a nation reclaiming its future. Traoré's vision didn't stop with soldiers. He wanted every citizen to play a role in Burkina Faso's security. Farmers, traders, teachers, and students were trained to spot suspicious activity and report it to the military. Villages became part of a national network, watching out for each other. A farmer might notice a strange truck on a remote road and alert the authorities. A shopkeeper might report unfamiliar faces in the market. This wasn't just about defense. It was about unity. When everyone feels they're part of the fight, a nation becomes unstoppable. Traoré turned Burkina Faso's people into its greatest strength, building an army that wasn't just in uniform, but in every heart, every home, every village. Air power needs a foundation, and for Burkina Faso, that foundation was its air bases. These weren't just runways. They were the backbone of the nations. Security, the pillars that held up Traoré's vision, strategically placed across the country. Air bases allowed the military to respond to threats in minutes, no matter where they were. Each base was a hive of activity, drones buzzing into the sky, technicians repairing equipment, analysts poring over data from surveillance flights. These bases turned Burkina Faso's vast terrain from a weakness into a strength, covering every corner of the country with a protective shield. Building these bases was a monumental task. It took years of planning, millions in investment, and countless hours of labor. Roads were carved through the bush to bring in supplies, cement, steel, and technology from across the world. Workshops were built to keep drones and planes in top shape, with mechanics working late into the night to ensure every machine was ready. Training centers taught recruits how to operate complex systems from radar to drone controls. Every brick laid, every wire connected was a step toward a stronger Burkina Faso. Villagers near the bases felt the change immediately. For years, they had lived in fear, knowing help was days away. Now, with bases nearby, they could sleep soundly, knowing drones and jets were ready to protect them. The bases weren't just military outposts. They were symbols of hope. They sent a clear message to the insurgents. Your time is up. Drones launched from these bases could reach any corner of the Sahel, finding camps hidden in forests or supply lines snaking through the desert. Insurgents who once moved freely were now hunted. Their movements tracked, their plans disrupted. The bases also inspired Burkina Faso's neighbors. Countries like Mali and Niger, struggling with their own insurgent threats, began to study Burkina Faso's model, building their own air bases and adopting drones. The quiet nation once overlooked was now a leader showing the Sahel and the world what a determined people could achieve when they refused to give up. The transformation of Burkina Faso wasn't just about fighting insurgents. It was about bringing life back to its people. For years, villages had been paralyzed by fear. Farmers couldn't work their fields, afraid of attacks that came without warning. Traders stayed away from markets, leaving stalls empty and towns silent. Children stopped going to school, their classrooms abandoned, their dreams put on hold. But as drones patrolled the skies and air bases stood guard, something remarkable happened. The Burkina Faso began to rebuild. Farmers returned to their fields, planting millet and sorghum under the watchful eyes of drones. Markets came alive again, filled with the sounds of bargaining, laughter, and the clink of coins. Picture Amina, a mother in a small village near Ouagadougou. For years, she kept her children inside, terrified of insurgents lurking in the nearby bush. One morning, she hears the faint hum of a drone overhead. She knows it's watching, keeping her family safe. For the first time in years, she lets her son Kofi walk to school. He joins his friends, their backpacks bouncing as they run, free from fear. Amina goes to the market where traders are back, selling everything from cloth to mangoes. The market is alive again, its colors and sounds a reminder of the life they once had. Amina's story is one of thousands across Burkina Faso.